Hi guys, and welcome to another one of my chats with pool icons, and they don't come a lot more iconic than my guest this time. A coach very much in demand. He's captained both Europe and America to Mosconi Cup victory. The only person ever to do that. A big warm welcome to Johan Ruysink. How you doing, Johan?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I must admit, I'm a little bit nervous at the moment. Your reputation precedes you. I've wanted to talk to you for so long, and finally I plucked up the courage, spoke to your secretary. Was it your wife, actually, your secretary as well, or not?
It's my wife. It's my wife. Yeah.
I kind of didn't know, so I didn't say anything, but thank you very much to Crystal as well for organising this. I want to get to the Mosconi Cup a little bit later on, but I want to start right at the beginning, if that's okay with you, Johan.
No
So going all the way back, when was it? 21st of December 1965, little Johan is born. So,
Yes.
so how was your childhood growing up in the Netherlands? Did you have a happy childhood, a good sport-filled childhood?
I kind of grew up in small villages. There was a lot of space. I was kind of a free kid, so I was always wandering around in the fields and doing stuff. And then my parents got divorced, and then my mother moved to the big cities, and from there on I lived in The Hague. And that's where actually all the pool things started.
So, what was your first ever introduction to pool? Was you a very young player? Did you play leagues? How did you kind of get into it?
No, I did all kinds of physical sports before, like table tennis, volleyball, cycling, javelin throwing, American football, all kinds of stuff, boxing. But I started, when the BBC started to broadcast their snooker world championships, and we actually were able to receive that in Holland. We kind of fell in love with snooker. We really wanted to try that, me and my friend. So we took it to a snooker room, and we played for maybe half a year, and we kind of felt it was okay. Then I went on holidays for 2 weeks, came back, and everything was gone. And I was like, wow, this is strange. And then a month later, probably, my friend called me and said, listen, a pool room opened up in The Hague, an American pool. I said, what's that? Oh, it's a little bit like snooker, but it's a little bit easier. So we started on 7 foot 8 ball, as everybody does. After 5 turns, I have 3 balls in, he has 2 balls in, so I'm in front. You really don't know that you can't play, but I just fell in love with the game, and we just went there every night. And from there on, the love and passion for the game grew and grew and grew.
Did you naturally have a good technique, or was it something that you actually went to a coach, or did you just take it to it naturally and found that you had a great style?
Oh, I think first of all we have a bit of a carom background in Holland, so we're kind of used to, for example, close bridge. And not as flat on your cue, so we're a little bit higher on the cue in the carom. So I did that for a little bit, but also because all the sports I did, I realized in any sport that technique is the first thing that needs to be good. So I started to, I didn't know a lot about technique of pool, but then because I trained so much and so fanatically, I kind of got to the European Championships in 1990. As the first Dutchman that actually played European Championships, and there I saw the big guys, the Suitcase, Storm, Engert, and then I started to realize that that there's a lot of technique involved. So from there on, I started to train my technique and become better.
So you learnt then off the big stars at the time then?
Well, I saw what they did. Well, for example, one year later, 1991, there was the first official World Championships, 9-ball in Bergheim, Germany, official WPA. It was kind of close to our house, like 400 kilometers, let's say 220 miles, 230 miles. So I went over there, we hired a film crew, filmed everything, I also, I saw Steve Miserek play a long shot, which I thought by the speed, looking at the speed of it, that would be like a stop shot, and that ball drew all the way back to the short rail again, like a full table draw, and I was like, wow, on that speed. So then I started to understand that there's some mysteries that I needed to solve still, which actually is, a high speed spin ratio, so a lot of spin, a little speed, and then you can do a lot with the cue ball. So from there on, we started to develop more and more this kind of knowledge and techniques into our game.
I've just got a little fun fact for you. The year you were born, a guy called Cesaro Murphy won the World Straight Ball Championships. Now, Murphy was the first and only African American to win a World All-US National Billiard title. You obviously don't remember. Do you remember him?
Well, I don't remember him because I wasn't born yet, but I do know his name. And indeed, he's one of the few African American guys that's actually on the list, which is a shame, by the way, because there's been much more of them.
Yeah, I always wonder why. Is it just because they take up other sports, do you think? Like they excel at other sports more so? Do you think that could be a reason?
I think, it's not... I don't want to go into political views, but it seems that the black community has been deprived of a lot of information, and they were obviously not on the books because of segregation. So I think it's just historically not their sport. But more and more guys come into it now, and they have a couple of good talents. I remember Michael Parrish as the World Junior Championship. So there's a couple of good of them. Josh Roberts, Joe, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, good. Now, while we're talking about straight pool, what are your thoughts on Jason Shaw's recent new world record 832? That's some going, isn't it?
Well, it's actually insane. Because we have a straight pool history in Holland. If you look at the Hall of Fame, Niels is like an 8-time European champion, world champion in straight pool, and we try to. I mean, every time on boot camps, we try to have good sessions in straight pool. The thing is that if you want to have a record, and the record is so high, even if you reach 600, which is an incredible amount, and you miss a shot, you have to start all over again. And again, you have to not miss for 40 tracks, and then it starts to become interesting. So it is insane that the number is insane, and also the fact that you're actually even trying. Because it seems that there's a lot of frustration and disappointment in an effort like that. But I mean, absolutely crazy. 832, 56 tracks, amazing.
You think he can do the 1,000?
Yeah, probably. But I mean, to be honest, it's not very likely. Again, if he misses at 800, then he has to start again. And at some point, you just think, that they are 9-ball players basically, so they can't, like John Speed, sacrifice 3 months of their life to try to make a record like that. There's not a lot of commercial value in that also. So they would have to give up some of their 9-ball events or streak in order to get that done. 1,000 obviously is possible, 10,000 is possible, but that's only theoretically, in my opinion. I think 832 will stay there for a long time.
Yeah, it's a hard enough feat in itself, isn't it? Just to do anything like that on a pool table, to run so many balls, you need a little bit of luck as well. It's very easy to get a horrible kiss and scratch, and which I know he's done on a few occasions.
Yeah, I remember the last one. Actually, Tyler was chatting with me and he said, listen, Jason is on a record straight pool run, and it was live on I think YouTube, so I put it on, and he was drawing every time from the pack, and I said, why didn't he ever scratch on so many racks? And the next rack he scratches from that, so it was on 714. So that it can happen. I mean, the balls are flying all around, and you need a little bit of luck to have a first shot also. Listen, it's just amazing, and I don't understand 832, but it's absolutely awesome, and a big congratulations to one of the top players in the world, Jason.
Yeah, well said, and let's hope he does go on to break the 1,000. If he does, it's going to be very, very hard for anyone ever to beat that, simply because of I think Jason Shaw, he's got that special something in him where he's got that never give up. I don't care if I run 300 and scratch. I don't care if I do it again. I'm not going to give up until I do it kind of mentality, and that's a big part of it as well, right?
Yeah, it is. But again, if you run 300, 400, 300, 200, what kind of energy do you have left to start again? And I mean, it's just amazing to be trying even. So,
yeah. So whenever I have a guest on, I'm always interested to find out the origins of their names, and I researched Ruysink. I hope I'm saying that right. Is it Ruysink?
Ruysink, yeah. The I is a very specific sound. Our language is never. So all the Americans say me Ruysink, an ow or an oi, but it's Ruysink.
Ruysink. I actually do a lot of commentary with Tim de Ruyter, and I can never pronounce his.
Same thing. Same thing. Yeah.
I call him the horseman.
In order, we will be up on top of each other.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult. But anyway, I did Google your name and did a bit of research on it. Ruysink is, of course, a Dutch name that refers to a farm named Ruysink near Zelhem. The farm was first mentioned in 1473 as Ruysink. The name is related to Rousseau, a pet from an ancient Germanic name that includes the element hrod, which means fame, renown, or highly honoured. So that's the history of your name.
Wow, I'm learning something here. I never looked it up. No.
Now look, and it works well because you are well renowned in the coaching fraternity. I mean, I love what you coach, especially. I've never had a lesson with you. I would love to have a lesson with you sometime just to know what you teach, because I know kind of some of the stuff. But let's talk about your coaching, because I get asked almost, on a daily basis who I would recommend as a coach. And of course, you have got this amazing reputation. You've worked with a lot of the top players that we all know. But do you coach absolute beginners? And if so, what would you say is the kind of the most important thing, if there is just, I know it's a difficult question, but what would be the thing that you would teach to beginners on day one?
Well, first of all, I have trained people or work with people that are absolute beginners. I've had 5 pool halls, and then you get schools and you get, basic courses we did. So people that actually played with hands like this as a bridge, they had no idea. But in my practice, I've talked about this often. I'm educated by Olympic Committee, and I was introduced to a guy called Istvan Bali from Hungary. He's a coach, and he used the long-term athlete development plan, which is basically a structure that is used by all the Olympic sports. And it goes from the fundamentals to winning to train to win. So all these stages are there. And the first is fundamentals with FUN as capitals, so it must be fun in the start. Then after you've been introduced to the game, fell in love, are passionate, only want to play, then you start to understand that you're not that good because the guy next to you is running tables. So now you're starting to train, right? You're starting to improve. And in the long-term athlete development plan, the second stage is train on technique. In any sport, the technique and the level of your technique decides the ceiling that you can go. The better your technique, the more potential you basically have. So it will always be on technique. You gotta learn how to put your arm, because it's a physical movement, right? In America, there's a lot about table knowledge, but it's basically a movement of the arm going straight forward. So in order to achieve that, you need to learn how to bring your arm straight forward in a movement that's behind you. That's what makes our sport unique. A lot of sports start behind you, like table tennis or volleyball, whatever, but they end in front of you. So you have a certain spot in front of you to go to with your technique. In pool, it's always behind you. You can't really see other than looking around, and that, change your stance, and that's just a little bit confusing. We try to use mirrors, but that looks really crazy because suddenly you're playing left-handed. So it's a little bit confusing for your mind also. So we are now developing and already developed some stuff that we can actually analyze the technique with, and some tools that help you to get your arm straight, because that's the whole thing, right? If your arm goes straight, the cue goes straight, then at least you can get the cue ball where you want it to be. Because if you miss a ball, two things can happen: either you can't aim, or you can't get the white ball where you're aiming. Now, if you can't get the white ball where you're aiming, it becomes really confusing, because you were aiming correct, cue ball doesn't go where you want it to go, you don't really realize it's only a couple of millimeters, now you're missing the ball and you think you're aiming wrong. You start to adjust your aiming. So if your technique is not straight, progress will be slow, because there's so many variations. So you need to have a good technique first to start to play great pool. So always technique. So it's not that hard of a question, to be honest.
Yeah, I've done some coaching. Actually, back in 1984, I was a coach at my local snooker centre with a couple of professional referees who owned and were actually referees on TV all the time as well. And it was exciting times. We used to get all the pros come down. But I took a coaching course, and we actually did coaching, and we had students come over from Holland and Belgium to our snooker centre, and then we would then go over to it was actually Schiedam, another word I can't say. Yeah, Schiedam near Rotterdam, and we ran a tournament while we were there for the students that had been, and you'll never believe this, the referee that was there for the semi-finals and the final was actually a very, very young Jan Verhaas.
Jan Verhaas, yes. I remember. Yeah, because he used to, when pool started to become structural, he was like the administrator for pool. So we always had to see him to register the team, and so I know Jan Verhaas from a long way back also. Yeah, when he still had brown hair.
When he still had big hair as well. But not now. But he's a very big man, isn't he? Very imposing figure. Great referee as well. Great referee. So, do you actually play much these days, or is it all about the coaching now?
It's all about the coaching. I've trained with a couple of guys, and I understood the amount of work it needs to calibrate your and condition your muscles to go absolutely straight. Not 95%, not 97%, but as close as 100% as possible. And that needs a lot of training in a high precision sport as pool. And I started at 22. So when you don't maintain your training, when you start late, you have to train it constantly, because otherwise your level will go fast. If you start at 9 years old and you play till 14, then you stop for 20 years, come back, you still know how to make a ball. That doesn't happen when you start at 22. So at some point, when you lose your training and you start to miss straight stop shots, then the game is not that much fun anymore, to be honest. If you regularly make 180 and then 2 years later you're happy to hit the board, I don't know. That's not. It's never been my ambition to be like a world top player. I just found it far more rewarding to teach people and to help them achieve their goals and their own best level.
Now, I couldn't possibly talk to you without mentioning a couple of things, actually. First of all, the elbow drop. I remember snooker player Tony Knowles, right, back in the 80s as well.
Yeah,
I remember I remember going to see him play live, and I was fascinated with how soft and sweet he was stroking the cue ball, but he would always go all the way through with his cue, and I thought, that's the way I'm going to play, that's the way and of course it ruined my game for the next, I don't know how long, because even now I mean, I'm not I wouldn't call myself a pool player. I used to be a century maker at snooker, but I gave that up when it got too difficult and wanted some fun, so started playing pool. But even now, I'd love to do the elbow drop, a bit like Jasmine Ocean. I love her elbow drop, and Fedor as well. I don't know whether he's doing it so much as he used to anymore, but I'm pretty sure he is on certain shots.
So Ruslan is back.
Yes.
Ruslan is back. Probably the longest stroke in the world. Yeah, so.
Isn't it great to see him back? I mean,
Absolutely.
what a player he is. I was really happy to see his name on the list, and I know he's going to Vegas, which I'm going to be commentating on very, very soon, so I'm really pleased that he's back in the game. What about what ball are you looking at, Johan, when you are actually striking the cue ball? What are you looking at? Are you looking at the cue ball or the object ball?
I think Chris Henry did some research in snooker. He took the 16 top players, and I think it was 9-7. So 9 guys are looking at the object ball, 7 guys are looking at the cue ball. There's no good or bad in this. It's not so much about looking and breathing. All these things are added value. Again, it's about straight arm. And that's where the elbow drop becomes a very hard movement. I had some big discussion with Daryl Hill. I don't know if you know that guy. He's a snooker coach, big guy, curvy.
Yes, yeah.
India and Goa when I was doing snooker there. And we had a long discussion about the elbow drop. And he told me, listen, less movement is more accurate. Free movement is just too difficult. And in some way I agree with him because it is more difficult. On the other hand, if you look at the golf swing, which is completely free of your body, you know, people can hit the 10 balls within 5 yards of the pin in 100 yards, which is incredible. But it shows that the conditioning of the muscles is very possible in any movement. And my simple theory about the elbow drop is that if you need spin or speed in any sports to move an object, whether it's a puck, a ball, a shuttle, if you want to move that ball with speed or spin, there's always a follow through. Even in darts, which is a very small distance, very light, they don't throw like this, there's a follow through. So that's the basic idea about the elbow drop. And if you look at kids when they first come to the table and you don't tell them anything, you will see that a lot of them will push through the Y ball. So it looks like this is a more natural way to play. It's just a quite hard movement. And when I practice with players and they don't have an elbow drop and I show them the possibilities and the control of an elbow drop, it is just to show them and give them an option. Because I will never tell someone you need the elbow drop. It's a way to play. It's like a weapon. It's like a good jump shot. It's like good break kick shots. It's a special weapon, especially for long kill shots. That's where the elbow drop helps you a lot because then you can keep the ratio speed spin, a lot of speed, a little speed on a long distance. That kills the angle and the line of the speed of the cue ball. So that's where it comes in handy a lot. But I do realize it's a very, very difficult movement. And it obviously needs more practice than a shorter stroke, which the Americans call the pendulum stroke. And I wish they would stop with calling that stroke the pendulum stroke, because a pendulum goes like this and it never goes straight. So it looks a little bit silly to me that if you need to go straight through the ball, that you call your movement pendulum. But anyway, that's something that I will discuss with other people. But it needs to be straight and it needs to go through the cue ball. And acceleration comes from the fingers to the cue ball. After that, there's just a logical follow through because the speed of your arm. And if you stop it, there's a lot of muscle tension. And if you are under pressure, that muscle tension might kill you, either your tip position or your speed control.
I think a lot of it, of course, comes down to the timing as well. Okay, the timing, the speed that you're actually coming into the cue ball, and the amount of power you've got just after you've struck the cue ball. The thing I love the elbow drop. When I do it right, I can draw full length for the table beautifully, sweetly. But I've developed this habit where I start now to drop the elbow too quick. So now I'm.
Yeah.
Is there a secret way around that? I know you don't want to give too many secrets away, but
no, it's not about secrets. It's about logic and about thinking about what is common sense. If you hit the cue over 90 degrees, so you hit it here, your cue will come up and your tip will dive. So you will have a hard time having a precise tip position and being level on that tip position, because at the point of hitting the ball, you're already coming up with the cue, right? So the 90 degrees on the 90 degrees from your hand underarm to the cue is one thing that's very important. Your flexibility of the wrist, obviously, you can't keep it stiff because then cue goes up. So the elbow or the wrist needs at some point needs to change its position to make sure that the cue goes straight. That's the hard part about it, because as you know, and as you can see, the wrist is incredibly flexible, can go any way. So it's very hard to control that fine muscles to go exactly straight. That's why it needs so much practice.
Are you a believer in muscle memory? I've heard people say no, it doesn't. There's no correlation. I've heard papers. I interviewed a guy who, for example, you know, when a player goes round to look at the angle of the ball into the pocket, I know Fedor's doing it a lot now, where he'll go round and he actually bends down now when he's looking at the angle of the pot, and then he goes back to his walking and such, but still looking at that point. I've interviewed a guy called Zach Lamb who's written a university paper on this, about the correlation between the brain and muscles and all that kind of thing whilst playing pool. And do you see that, looking at the angle, as just part of a shot routine, or is it actually a thing where you are fixating on that point and then walking back to walk in on fixating on that point? Or do you need to be standing back from the shot and walking in on the line of the whole of the shot, rather than just the point of the ball?
Yeah, well, again, in snooker there's a lot of pre-shot routine and there's a lot of attention on pre-shot routine. In pool, not so much. However, you talk about muscle memory, and I think I didn't write any university papers. What I see is when I make people do a movement without the ball in front of them, they can actually do the elbow drop quite easily, and because it's physical movement, that it's not hampered. They do it 100 times correctly, and then I put a ball in front of them. They need to make the same movement, and suddenly, after 100 times doing it correctly, so this result thinking in front of them suddenly, seemingly, provokes the old muscle memory, how it's always done, how they know how to stop a ball with a certain muscle movement. So yes, I believe in muscle memory, because I see it coming back every time when people try to override it, when they try to do differently. And then I've even had practice sessions with 2-3 hours where they, even with the ball, completely fluid, go through the cue ball, have a little bit of an elbow drop, enough to use any English on the cue ball, and then as soon as we start playing for results, let's say that we start counting results on exercise, or we play a little bit 9-ball, immediately gone. And it's also something that you need to learn to trust, right? So when you do the elbow drop and it works in the practice, and suddenly the first 2 shots you do in the match it doesn't work, you will be very likely to go back to your old things, because you need a result. You don't play competition to lose. So then you go back to what gives you results. So it's quite a hard practice and quite a long time to override that muscle memory. However, I've also seen it change with some players, and it's stuck. So that's why I give you the option, because I understand for any player that wants to change your elbow drop, you need to have quite intense practice and for quite a long time to not only master it, but also to be able to use it in a match and understand the extra options that this elbow drop gives you, because there's a different speed spin ratio. Now suddenly other things happen that you don't really expect. You have to learn what are the options with a sweeter stroke. So it's quite a complicated road to get to a longer stroke and still have good results. But listen, the most crazy example, in my opinion, is still John Morra, who went from right-handed play to left-handed play. And, at some point I feel that his left-handed plays even more consistent and better than his right-handed play. So if you can change from right to left hand, which changes everything, then it must be very possible, at least, to change to an elbow draw.
Yeah.
Not saying it's easy, but it's possible.
Yeah, very, very interesting stuff. We started off by talking about fundamentals. You mentioned the three-letter word fun at the beginning, but there's also that mental word in there as well, isn't there, in fundamentals? How much emphasis do you put on the mental side of the game, Johan? Because, you know, there's lots of different percentages bandied about. Is it 75? Is it 80? Is it 90? Is it 95? How much
the higher the level of the player, the more the mental side comes in. It's pretty simple. The top 100 in the world can all run a table. If they get ball in hand, they will run it 85% of the time. So what is the difference? You know, we play quite a random game with a lot of random factors, starting with a break. So there's a little bit of luck involved in what kind of situations are in front of you. On average and on longer races, you would say that the mentality would be the decider. Yeah, the separation from the other player is how good you are mentally, how good you are with your energy, and all these micro processes that go on in between balls. A little bit of disappointment about the position, about you run into balls, suddenly you have to jack up, or you're on the rail. There's constant micro processes going on in your mind. I talked with a couple of guys in golf. They actually went to see the Mosconi Cup in 2006 in Rotterdam. Dutch champion came over, and he said, "Listen, your sport is absolutely mental. At least we have like 3 minutes to talk to our caddy and go to the ball and make a decision and process the disappointment, etc. and refocus on the new shot." He said, "You have to do that in 30 seconds. Well, good luck." I mean, it's pretty harsh. And I feel that on that level, especially with shot clock, it is all about handling these micro processes that are going on in your mind.
Am I guessing from that little bit of chat there that you're not really a fan of the shot clock? Should it be a little bit longer, do you think, or is it okay at 30 seconds?
Shorter. I should think it should be shorter.
Okay.
Yeah, let's give an example. Now we're playing Mosconi Cup, right? So the guy breaks, got 60 seconds to think about something, then he pushes out. Guy comes in, has 60 seconds to think whether he's going or not. Then he gives it back. Then the guy has 30 seconds, takes an extension, and suddenly, after 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes, the first shot is done. Well, that's not, in my opinion. When I looked at pool compared to snooker, I thought, because it was still the time of Terry Griffiths and the somewhat slower players, that snooker was like conservative, slow, structural, methodical, and pool was more free, sexy, fast, explosive, young, dynamic. All these words were core values for our sport, in my opinion. And so I feel that, I fell in love with pool in 1991 extra because it was strict and running breaks in 35 seconds. I was like, whoa, it's not so difficult, right? And so I'm a big fan of fast play, although I also understand that on a tactical match, there should be more time because it's not easy to make tactical choices and the right ones. A lot of options, like in one pocket. There's a lot of options on every shot when you play tactically. So then you do need some more time. So I don't say that you have to play every shot within 20 seconds, but when the table is open, you have no problems at the table. Why can't it be run within a minute? It's not that difficult.
Do you think?
We all practice it constantly.
Do you think a shot clock would make snooker a little bit more interesting and ball in hand?
It seems that in snooker there's some sort of etiquette that they don't really linger around. There's a couple of players that are very nervous, like I think it was Graham Dodd. On a game was very slow, but normally they only take time when it's a very difficult situation. And in pool, sometimes people take time to make sure they have the best control and the best, all this pre-shot routine done 5 times to make absolutely sure, which I feel is just a waste of time and a waste of the quality of our sport. Because I would look at it on the broadcast on television and I would see someone taking 2 minutes for a shot, it would probably not trigger my attention. So I'm a big fan of making sure that our sport stays fast, explosive, with a break, young, dynamic, sexy, colorful. All these things are our core values.
Yeah, you're talking my language. It's a sexy game. It's fast. It's furious. There's drama. There's everything you could want. I'm just hoping that Paul doesn't kind of go down the snooker route too much. All the dead silent in the crowd and that. How do you feel about that?
Well, if I would organize a tournament, I would actually put on fences and everybody could be on the fences shouting and. I would love to have more engagement, like in the Mosconi Cup. I'm a big fan of the Mosconi Cup. I've not only done it 10 times, I've done it 10 times also because I'm a big fan, and I just want to make sure that the quality is good of the teams that are playing. And it's our way out of the darkness. We're getting better now in the tournament organization. There are bigger tournaments, but looking at the full picture of pool, the Mosconi Cup is broadcast by Sky Sports. There's a lot of attention. The tickets are sold out in no time. So I feel that this is still the most exciting, exhilarating format in pool at this moment. It's interesting to watch. Even people that never watched pool that I showed the Mosconi Cup, they're like, wow! It looks spectacular. It looks like there's a lot of engagement from the audience. And so I don't like silent crowds. But at some point, before the shot, there needs to be some sort of silence from the crowd. As you know, the worst thing for a player that can happen is a single voice shouting out.
Yeah.
Right. If there's constant
on the backswing, but I feel constant is okay. That sudden drop, all of a sudden, like at Mosconi, that's the perfect example. I'm lucky enough to have been to one, and it was absolutely insane. I mean, I don't think I would want every tournament to be like that, as you mentioned, but I think it would be nice to have it more like darts, more like darts than snooker. I mean, that constant people talking, there's no real shouting out when they're on the actual thing. It kind of just happens that way,
Yes. And I think because of the snooker has become more or less our example, because there has been so much broadcasting of snooker that we all know Dutchman, we all know O'Sullivan, the big guys. We all know these guys, and we see them play. We see the audience. We see the both guys. We see there's a certain etiquette in the sport. But our sport is different. It's the same system. We need pocket balls, but our balls are bigger, table smaller. It's basically technically somewhat easier than snooker, because snooker is very pot focused, because the distance and sport short small balls. But I feel that pool should have a bigger future than snooker, to be honest. Because pool is 7 out of 10 people that hold a cue in the world hold a pool cue. Not carom, not snooker, not Tinky Brilli, not the Gulf Billiards, not carom. 7 out of 10 people that hold a cue hold a pool cue. That's how huge and fast our sport is in the world. And that's why I feel that we are still underrated and underappreciated.
Yeah, it's a lot more accessible, isn't it, Paul? I mean, it's on every street. It's in most bars in the UK. It's where I'm living at the moment in Thailand. You're just walking past pool tables all the time. And I think that's one of the big things about the Philippines, why this is my theory on why there are so many Filipinos always at such a high standard as well. I think it's a lot of them just see it from the street, so young, and they can just stand there and watch and very easy to pick up a cue. They haven't got to open a door. They don't, they haven't got to discover what's behind a door. They can see it. What do you reckon to that theory?
Well, first of all, they don't have a mandatory school, so they don't need to go to school. The kids, a lot of them don't, because they're very poor. I've been in Manila probably 25 times, and if you walk around the slums, you can see there's a lot of poverty there. It's a way out of poverty also. they look at the big stars like Efren, Busti, see them coming out of and becoming heroes, and the accessibility is high, and they have a lot of big examples. So if they watch the good players, they can actually learn a lot from them. So yeah, I mean the culture is not structural as an education sport, but it's definitely competition culture, which is on a very high level, done by a lot of players. And you can imagine that the guy that comes out of a heavy competition, even without teaching technique, will be a very good player.
Is there another Efren that you've seen? Do you think there's a player around at the moment that you think might come through? There's a real young guy called JC Bukal. Have you heard of this guy? Have you seen him?
Not yet. But listen, at any given moment, so we are our country, Holland, the Netherlands, is very good in speed skating. At any given moment, from some division, from some youth training, there's this 18 or 19-year-old guy that's suddenly second in the world because the level's so high. And I've been in the Philippines with the youth of Holland, the juniors. We were there for 6 weeks playing the juniors of Manila. And then suddenly a guy walks in, 19 years old, Jack, I think he was called. Kenny is one of my players, and we just done with the training. So he said, yeah, well, let's play. The guy opens with 5 racks. 10 ball hand wrecked. Bam, huge break, 5 wrecks. Never seen the guy, never saw him before, never saw him after. But that's the kind of level that you will meet. I remember that we had a girl in Holland, a European champion. She actually played with the men in table tennis. That's how good she was. She couldn't enter the girls, the women's division anymore. The Tina Vriesekoop, I think 7, 8, 9 times European champion. So she went to China. She went by train and she had to wait on the station for the next train a couple of hours before it came. There was a table tennis table, and one of the guys that worked on the station challenged her for a table tennis match, and she lost. It's the same, right? If you go to, everybody knows how to play table tennis in China. Everybody in Manila and in the Philippines knows how to play pool, and they know pool. You don't have to tell them about pool. So when it was, it's funny, 10-ball World Championships, it was on television live in Manila at that time. It was held in Manila. And a few hours after the match, we took a cab. And the cab driver is actually telling my players in the back, listen, on the 5-ball on the 4th rack, the 5-ball, why did you play like this?
Wow.
The taxi driver, right? So that's how well
Insane.
known and how grounded this sport is in their culture.
Yeah, very, very interesting stuff, this, Johan. I'm loving this. I'm sure all the guys are as well out there watching this. Now, of course, Mosconi Cup, another convincing win for Team Europe in 2024 in the new place in Florida there. What did you think about the new playing captains instead of like previous years where they had like captains like yourself, of course?
Well, I mean, my opinion is just worth so much. But in 2006, when I actually rang up match for myself because I didn't understand why my players were already in there. Alex, Niels, Nick, and we lost quite big from the Americans. And in the individual tournaments in the world, we were actually beating them. So I didn't understand. So I called Matchroom and I actually said to them, because the stories of my players coming back from Mosconi Cup, that this system with a playing captain didn't really work. Because players they compete every year against each other the whole year, and now suddenly they have to put someone in a spot that's important, and you get these frictions constantly. So I told Matchroom, listen, it would be just smart to have a guy on the side that makes the decision, that does the preparation, that does the lineup, and there can be no argument, and there can at least be no friction between the players about these decisions. So that's where we started with non-playing captains, and I think it worked pretty well. Unfortunately, and that's also, with all respect to the players that were in the opposition towards me, players, I do the coaching, so I'm kind of rivaling up to another coach, right? This is my competition against the other coach.
Yes.
But the other coach was players. Kim Davenport, Charlie Williams, Johnny Archer, these are players. They don't know how. I mean, with all respect for their game and for their knowledge about the game, but they are not coaches. They are not educated in coaching. So I always felt like, okay, in the preparation, the team building, the mental side, the lineups and the tactical things around this, I have a big advantage because these guys can play but don't know how to manage a team. So I never felt there was a good idea from the other side, and that kind of gave me so much the edge. Also, next to the fact that it was kind of okay in Europe, that we won so many times, and that was just a shame because now suddenly, the captain's role seems to be not so big. Where I thought my influence on the team was quite heavy in order to make sure that they were in the best possible position to win. And now America didn't really go that route. So the last time when they took Ralph Eckert, that's a disgrace to my profession to call yourself the best paid record in the world. If you have no influence on the team at all as a coach, then you absolutely have no idea what you're doing. And they underestimated devaluated my profession so much that I was really pissed about it. And now that led to the decision to have playing captains again, which I think is not good for every team. It might be very good for Europe because they have a very showy style. They like to walk around when they win. But I think the Team USA needs more like a Ryder Cup preparation, a more structural, go through all the things, because USA historically is not good in team events that much. Look at, for example, music. All the big bands, the big, the well-known bands, the Genesis, the Stones, the Beatles.
All English, European, yeah.
Yes, and then the single stars, the Michael Jacksons, these are mostly from America. So it seems that we are more used to teams, and America is more used to individual heroes. So as Americans, we need better, more structural preparation on Mosconi Cup in order to be good.
So that is basically what you brought to the USA when you won it those times that you did with the USA. That is what you brought.
I brought a lot of things probably new for Americans. That's why I didn't work the first year that much. But I brought them to Europe, to Russia, to play internationally, which they didn't do at the time. Now there's the World Nine Tour, so now they play a lot of international tournaments. So that preparation to go outside of the country is not necessary that much anymore. But making agreements about how to play, who plays who, with who, how you behave yourself around the table as a team, as a doubles, as a couple. That's important things. On details it can go wrong, and this year I've seen a lot of details that I thought were not great during the match, and you can't expect that from a guy that that just plays and just wants to play and has never been a captain. I mean, he's done his utmost best, and I believe that he's done as good as he can, but obviously he doesn't have the same coaching background, so he doesn't feel the small things that can actually make a change, and it's all about details in a high level match.
So obviously you watched the Mosconi Cup. Were you actually there, or were you watching it on TV?
No, I don't want to go there because a lot of that's just not good for me.
So what were you sitting at home watching it, Johan?
Yeah. Yes.
Thinking, I wouldn't have done that. Why have they done that? Why have they put him against him? Why are they playing him twice or three times and not him? Was there a lot of mistakes that you saw, not just from the Americans, but from the Europeans as well this side, that you would have done, not necessarily mistakes, but things you would have done differently?
Well, obviously, like I said, simply because I view things differently as a coach and as a player. And there's also some big mistakes with Europe also. But if you're not punished for your mistakes, then it's it's not going to be a good day for you. At this moment, since I'm not involved, I don't want to talk too much about what happened last year. I think basically looking at the lineup that this year was probably America was probably the favorite, and that's why it's a shame that it didn't go the other way around or even be more competitive. Because looking at the lineups of the players, I was pretty convinced that America had a good chance this year. Didn't.
Yeah.
So it didn't turn out.
Yeah, I expected it to be a lot closer than it actually was. Would you, if they offered you it, would you like another shot at being the captain of the US?
No, it feels that, I don't know. Obviously, I don't want to come back 3 times. I've done it twice now from both sides, and I don't want to be like, oh, the Messiah is coming back. That's all bullshit. It's all about the future of American pool. If you remove Federer, which is basically a European guy that, because the invasion of Ukraine went to America, but if you take him away, then you have to replace him with someone else, and that's, with all respect to other players, it's always less level because he's the world champion, the world Masters, and the US Open champion. So he's probably one of the best players in the world at the moment. So you can't replace him with a better player. So looking at the American pool of players, that is what annoys me. It annoys me that you have 600,000 players playing every week pool in some team competition or some other competition, and that from 600,000 players we can't find, let's say, 15 guys that are talented enough to storm the world top of the world, which that annoys me. That there's only a couple of players that are actually good enough to play on world level, and we've talked about this often in the past. There's a lot of guys from Europe that are actually able to play the Mosconi Cup from their level, and that should be the other way around, because we have less players in Europe than in America. So for me to come back to the Mosconi Cup as a captain, that doesn't make sense. I don't mind being involved in the preparation, but my real goal would be to make sure that there will be a structure, that the youth of America is trained and coached the correct way, and that they get a path upwards to world class. And there's absolutely talent in America that can get to that level. So now, for me, it's all about, can you find a way to make a structure to bring them forward every year again, so that they don't get stuck at an A- level or an A level, but they can actually become A+ players. And I think that's the key for the Mosconi Cup in the end, but definitely for American pool.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. You mentioned the ratio of players. America has a lot more pool 9-ball player. Well, I don't know about 9-ball, but maybe, pool in general than Europe does. And my feeling on this is a lot of it comes down to, as you just alluded to there, like the federations. There's no real, it's not like pool is that important in America to governments and stuff like that. They've got baseball, they've got football, they've got basketball. There's just so many other bigger options. How would you address that? What's the answer
First
there?
Of all, it's incredibly sorry. I'm incredibly sorry, and actually, it's a shame that the 2 sports that have American in front of them is American pool and American football. Well, American football has been taken care of, but American pool has been left hanging. There were sponsors in the 80s and the 90s, but they all disappeared. So the industry in America kind of left this sport where it was. Now it becomes more professional, so I see more money coming in. So at some point, naturally, the way it goes, it will come up in America, the ambition, the level, but it just shouldn't take 10 or 15 years. Because there's too much talent, there's too much people that know about pool. Just the fact that when I train with people in America, I often can go to their home because they have a table at home. In Europe, hardly anybody has a table at home. We all have to go to pool centers and pool halls and coffee shops. So the fact that so many people have a table at home means that there's so much possibility to practice. Because you can practice anytime, and if you have to go to a pool center, then after work, and you have done your whatever you've done, and then you have some hours left to go to the pool. You meet some people, you have to socialize, and then you do some training for an hour, which is always interrupted by people that come in and say, hey, how are you, blah, blah, blah. Whereas the same 3 hours you could play at home, do structural training and progress like much, much higher. So the fact that there's so many stables in people's houses, that so many kids get acquainted with this sport should mean that there's so much more talent and so much more people that can actually play on the highest level. And since that's not there, that can only be because there's no good structure.
Yeah, I think from my time in America as well, I've noticed it seems that anyone's a coach there. Just if you're a player, then you're automatically considered to be a coach, which we both know that is not the point. Just because you're a good player, it doesn't mean to say that you're going to be a good coach. You know, you might be Shane Van Bonen teaching, you know, looking at him with his unturned wrist and his forward wrist and his...
Works perfect.
It
works for him.
Works for him, right? But
yeah.
The trouble is when somebody's trying to adopt that technique to make it work for them, which necessarily isn't kind of going to work. Anyway, I'm going way back on the coaching side again.
Which it's not so much about Shane, it's more about the player becoming a trainer, and then it's a be like me trainer. This is how I do it, so this is how it works.
Yeah.
That's just not always working, or hardly ever, to be honest.
Do you think, just going to the Reyes Cup for a second, do you think they should appoint different team coaches for the Reyes Cup? I mean, from what I saw, it's a totally different event to the Mosconi. Personally, I didn't really like it. I don't know whether that was because the lack of crowd or maybe a little bit of it was because we got thrashed. But what was wrong with the Reyes Cup?
It's been on the radar for a long time, obviously, because I do believe that the two strongest continents are Asia and Europe, not so much America, especially in the quantity of their top players. Again, I was happy with Carl Boyce afterwards that he actually said, "Listen, now I understand that this is far too much harder a job for me. This is something that's absolutely." You need a guy that knows what he's doing. And I was happy with that remarks, simply because it gives my profession a better status and a better, recognition. Obviously, it was a, the thing to do was to put Evan Reyes there. However, what if they would have lost 11-2? That would have, taken some of the shine of Evan Reyes and of the cup. So, just lucky that didn't happen. It's been always on the radar. I think it's a good idea, but obviously it still needs some adjustments and some growing up. It's probably kindergarten stuff now, but it's good that it's done because these kind of events are are potentially very, very interesting and very exciting for both the audience as the players.
So I'd also like to do something with my guests when they come, and it's we were talking about shot clocks earlier on. I've got a 30-second list of questions here. They're mainly one-word answers, so it's totally unrehearsed. So I'm going to ask you some very quick questions, Johan, and just answer as quickly and as honestly as you can. You get no extension here. It's just 30 seconds, okay? Are you ready? So how much?
You realize it's not my native tongue, right? It's not my native tongue.
I know. I'll try and be clear for you. I've got a bad accent for you. I know.
So am I.
So how much? No, I love the Dutch accent. It's one of my favourites. But do you know what? Just going off piste a minute. I live near Harwich. Now you surely know Harwich, right? The port of Harwich, exactly.
Yeah.
And we used to have a seaside business with my father, and I used to work there during school holidays. And lots of Dutch people would come over all the time on the ferries, and it was only like a 20-minute drive to the beach from where I was working. And we used to get so many Dutch people, and I just grew up loving the way that you speak English. Anyway. Just a little bit of extra info there. So here we go then, Johan Ruysink, coach extraordinaire. How much of our sport is in the head?
60%.
Is pool a sport or is it a game?
Sport.
Triangle, rack or template?
Triangle.
9-ball or 10-ball?
9-ball.
Best ever American.
With
Earl?
the different breaking format. 9-ball with a different breaking format.
Yeah. Best ever American. Earl, SVB or another one?
SVB.
Who? SVB. Okay.
Yes.
Best jumper in the world.
Vestergaard.
Best kicker.
One of the Filipinos. But in Europe, Albin.
Yeah, I was going to say Albin. I think his game has really, really come on kicking wise, as has Jason Shaw's actually.
Yeah.
When you have played, who's your favourite opponent? It may be a better question to ask, who is your favourite person to coach? Who's your favourite that you've ever coached? Who's kind of got it and gone on to do really good things?
Federer.
Oh, he's got 2 from you so far. Now I'm looking. Come on.
There's a reason.
Yeah, of course. I'm looking at your shirt, so this is probably an easy one. Favourite cue, tip and chalk?
I don't have a favourite cue because I don't play, but I've always been a Predator fan in the way that they support the youth. First of all, they're innovative. They've been the first one, but they also have they try to put some money into youth, which I think that's a sensible way to support the sport. That's why I'm still a fan of Predator. Yeah.
Yeah, they do some great tournaments. They do. Yeah, there's a great youth showdown as well going to happen in Vegas. I believe there's 12 young juniors which are going to be playing at a showdown in Vegas. So I'm really looking forward to commentating on that one. What's your favourite song or artist?
Marillion.
Marillion. Wow.
Yes. From the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah. You've obviously been to Scotland a few times, right?
Once.
Oh, only once.
Only getting to Edinburgh. We trained a couple of days there, but unfortunately, it's one of my favorite countries. But I'm traveling all the time. Been in 58 countries, so when I retire, when I start traveling for the fun of it, then I will definitely visit Scotland. Scotland, sure.
What's your favourite country that you've been to so far, Johan? Either on a holiday or coaching, or maybe a combination of both? What is there some place that sticks out in your mind?
Well, the thing is that I've had a great time in Russia, had a great time in Iran. These are countries that now are kind of off the map, but the people that I met there were incredible, smart, full of life, full of ambition. I've been in 58 countries. I've been in Lebanon, which was great. People know how to party there. It was an absolutely marvelous time. Now I'm coaching Switzerland, same thing. Clean country, lovely people. Is there a favorite country? Listen, if the people are good to me, then the country's good. Yeah. And I just try to stay away from politics because, the people that are in power are always, in some way or another, shitheads. Yeah, we don't go down that route on this chat, do we? We've got more important things to talk about. It's all about the people, and that's what we love about the pool industry, right? The people that play pool on the whole are just amazing people, all after that same thing, that sweet timing through that cue ball, of course, and hearing the crack of the ball going in the back of the pocket. Okay, couple more for you. Are you a Netflix fan? Are you watching this great series? What's your favourite series? You've never watched that and you haven't got time, I guess. I only watched Last Dance. Oh, how good was that? How good was that? Do you know what I heard you saying earlier on when you were talking about a player can replicate this and then as soon as you put a ball in the way, it changes. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a stab in the dark guess here. I think you've read The Inner Game of Tennis. No. Sorry. You haven't? Wow. Do you know there's...
Okay, well, there's a part in that where they were trying to shoot a commercial and they got a top tennis pro, and she was a little bit nervous, and all she had to do was play this forehand over the net, and she kept hitting the net, hitting the net, hitting the net. And the tennis coach at the time said, "Okay, look, we're not gonna see you hitting the ball. All we need to see is your actual action, your nice sweet follow through. So don't worry, we're only going to be filming that. We're not going to be filming the ball." And then she tried, and then since she heard that, she just kept doing that, and she hit every single ball went in where it was supposed to go. It just reminded me of what you were talking about.
Process directed instead of result directed.
Say that again.
Process directed instead of result directed.
Yes.
Always gives a result.
Yes, exactly. I think that's about it, Johan. I mean, I've absolutely loved having you with us. Do you have any sponsors or people that you'd like to thank in the pool industry?
Well, I like to thank, of course, Predator. They still support me. There's a lot of people that I would love to thank because they are basically part of my career, but especially the players I work with. Thank them for their trust. I think the guys that are still coming to my house to have training sessions, I thank them for their trust, and I just hope that I can be able to give people some information that will help them to reach their own goals for a long time to come.
Yeah, that's lovely. And how can people actually get in contact with you, Johan, if they're interested in coaching or a photograph or an autograph? Are you big into social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook?
No, that's why I was happy that you mentioned my wife in the beginning, because she does that kind of thing. I'm terrible with social media, and she does my agenda, she does the scheduling, and it's from Johan Ruysink Coaching on Facebook that you can contact her. And we still have some spots left in the year. So.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. And I can't let you go without mentioning these shirts behind you. I've been staring at them for the last hour or so. What's the story behind these shirts, Johan?
Well, there's a couple. There's my shirt that I wear as a coach for Russia, and these are Mosconi Cup shirt from the there. From
oh wow!
2006.
Yeah.
Mosconi Cup here. A little bit of Mosconi Cup here in the museum.
Oh, there's Oscar Dominguez there. Look.
IPT posters.
Wow, you've even got a dartboard. Are you a little bit of a Luke Littler? What do you reckon to Luke Littler?
Incredible. But that's what I mean. There's so much darts in England that a guy from 16, 17 years old suddenly can be there suddenly. And that's what I hope for America, right? So when they build a better structure, these talents will pop up, and then, in 5 to 10 years time, I think America should be dominant in the world on pool. But that's my vision.
Well, they've already got Fedor from Europe. I think the next big acquisition that America need is Johan Ruysink to, not necessarily even for Mosconi, but to try and get some kind of organisation going there and, start getting all this talent and finding it and nurturing it to bring it to the world stage. Johan, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating talking to you. Johan Ruysink.
All the best.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.